I was 17 years old and already I knew what it was like to be in love. It was an amazing feeling. My boyfriend at the time had been nothing but kind to me. And when he told me he loved me, I believed it was true. But as soon as he left for basic training, my entire world came crashing down around me. I felt lost without him. I kept telling myself that this would only last a few months, but still, every day without him seemed harder than the one before. One day while I was going through his things, I found a letter that he had written to me. In the letter, he told me how much he loved me and how he couldn't wait to come home. He also told me how much he missed me. But there was something else in that letter, something that changed everything. He wrote about a promise he made to me. A promise I never knew about. I promise, he wrote, that no matter what happens, no matter how difficult it gets, I will never break your heart. I reread his words over and over again, tears streaming down my face. Why did he have to make a promise like that? What if something happened to him? What if he died? For weeks after finding that letter, I couldn't stop thinking about James's promise. Every time I heard a knock at the door, my heart skipped a beat. I half expected to see his smiling face standing there, but it was never him. I tried to throw myself into my schoolwork. I tried to spend time with friends, but nothing helped. All I could think about was James and our life together. I dreamed of the day when he would finally come home and we could start our lives together. Then one day, the unthinkable happened. One minute I was sitting in class, listening to the teacher drone on about the French Revolution. The next, I was staring at the cold, hard floor, trying to make sense of the words that the principal had just spoken. "We're sorry to inform you, Mrs. Peterson," she said, her voice shaking slightly, "but your son has been killed in action. He died a hero, trying to save the lives of his comrades." I can still remember the feeling of my whole body going numb. All I could think about was that promise James had written about in his letter. How could he have kept his promise when he wasn't even alive anymore? It was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, calling my parents and telling them their son, my brother, had been killed in action. Their screams of anguish still ring in my ears. When they arrived at the house, they held each other close, crying softly. They didn't blame me, even though I was the one who encouraged James to join the army. I wanted to be strong for them, but I was falling apart at the seams. I wanted to scream and cry, but no sound would come out of my throat. I felt like a robot, going through the motions of life but not really being there. My parents were amazing. They took care of me, making sure I ate and slept. But they couldn't take away the pain in my heart. I don't remember much from those first few days. I was in shock, I guess. But slowly, as the reality of what had happened started to set in, the guilt began to creep in. It was all my fault. I had convinced James to join the army. I had persuaded him to go to that stupid party the night before his deployment. If I hadn't done that, he wouldn't have been so angry with me. He wouldn't have felt the need to go out and get drunk. And maybe, just maybe, he would still be alive today. I replayed every conversation I'd ever had with James in my head, looking for clues as to why he had made that promise. What had made him think I would break his heart? I searched for answers, but all I found was more guilt. I hated myself for being weak. I hated myself for being selfish. I hated myself for being me. Months passed and the pain in my chest only grew stronger. I became obsessed with the idea of keeping James's memory alive. I joined the VFW, Ladies Auxiliary, and started volunteering at a local veterans hospital. I threw myself into my work, but it wasn't enough. I needed more. I wanted to do something big, something that would make a difference. One day while I was volunteering at the hospital, I met a young woman named Sarah. Sarah was an amputee, and she had lost both of her parents to combat. We talked for hours, sharing stories about our loved ones and the grief we had endured. She told me about something called Grief Share, a support group for people who had lost someone close to them in the military. Sarah said it had been a godsend for her and she thought it might help me too. So she gave me the contact information for the group's facilitator and I signed up for the next meeting. At first, I was hesitant to open up to these strangers. I was afraid they would judge me or think I was crazy. But as the weeks went on, I began to feel comfortable enough to share my story. And when I did, something amazing happened. These strangers, these people who had experienced so much loss and pain, welcomed me with open arms. They understood my grief. They knew what it was like to ache for someone who was gone. For the first time since James had died, I felt like I could breathe again. I was still sad, of course, but now there was a glimmer of hope in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, I could live again. Maybe I could honor James by living my life to the fullest, by being the best version of myself that I could be. Now, every year on the anniversary of James's death, I attend a grief share meeting. It's a day filled with sadness and regret, but it's also a day filled with hope and healing. I am so grateful for the day I found grief share. It has given me the strength to keep going, the courage to face another day without my soulmate. I know that James would want me to be happy, even if he isn't here to see it. I know he would want me to move on, to find love again, to live my life. I know he would want me to keep my promise to him, to never forget him, but also to never let him hold me back. So that's what I do. I live my life to the fullest, knowing that James is with me in spirit, guiding me, protecting me, loving me always. I will never forget the day my brother died. It was one of the worst days of my life. But I will also never forget the day I found grief share. It was one of the best days of my life. If you are struggling with grief, please reach out for help. There is no shame in it. In fact, it is a sign of strength. And you don't have to go through this alone. There are people who care about you and want to help. You just have to let them. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss any new videos. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.